Hi guys, it's Kathy. Thanks so much for joining me. I have a paper pumpkin alternative to share with you, and it's 3 cards. And I could have had it out to you a little earlier, but I'm really miffed. I had to redo the whole entire footage and the voiceover in a different editing software because the one I was using just would not export it. So I got up this morning and just redid everything, and now I'm going to struggle through my voiceover. All right, so for the first card, I decided on something really easy. I'm sure maybe someone's already done this, but so be it. We're just going to do a quick and easy floral card. We're going to use the daffodils off the boots, so just quickly cut away those 2 pieces. And then just to show you, I do own the mini trimmer, which I did purchase in early January before I resigned from Stampin' Up. And I did try it out originally, and then I put it back in the box. So aside from it being cute and all and mini, I just didn't find the action very smooth, and it felt just a little bit clunky, I guess. It just doesn't come across solid like the Tim Holtz one, which I also own too. Aside from all of that, it is cute and it will come in handy for small cuts if you had nothing else to use. All right, so back to the card. I just stuck together the 2 floral pieces, and then we're going to stick down the sentiment that I stamped off screen with some dimensionals. And I don't know about you, but every time I look at that sentiment, I keep thinking it's upside down. Okay, so I've got issues today. All right, so we're going to glue down that piece onto the shaded spruce panel, and I was just going to leave it like this, but then I think it needed something else, so I grabbed a So Saffron card panel and just centered that over top. And then that's when I realized that the Whisper White was actually a little bit shorter. I thought it was all around, but it's just a 1/4 inch on the long side. All right, so that's the card. I didn't stick it on a card base. And now we're on to card number 2. I have a small piece of Whisper White, and I'm using the other boot die cut piece, and then the circle piece I cut in half. So we're going to use half of that. And wasn't sure what I was doing here other than I wanted to put some texture on this piece. And I do apologize that I am using a dirty piece of paper towel. I just have to be a little bit more frugal these days. Okay, so we're going to stamp some hearts. So I'm using the smallest heart stamp that came in the kit. And we're going to stamp all over this piece with real red. And with Pacific Point, we're just going to shade around the entire piece. And then I'm sorry I'm kind of jumping around here, but we're onto the boot piece now. And I'm just using that one stamp that has an opening. I just used it to create the little door. So I just traced it so it'll be kind of easy so you don't mess up too much. And then I decided I'm just going to color in that door with the black, but hindsight, maybe try it with gray or maybe a different color because the black was just a little bit too dark, but it's all right. Okay, so I'm jumping around again, and we're going to do some stamping with the grass piece. And just so that it makes it a little bit easier on me, I decided to cut it in half, starting off with Granny Apple Green. We're just going to build the grass scene. So you want the left side to be the tallest. So we're just going to slowly make that side taller in grass and then a little bit lower on the right side. And it doesn't matter too much about the center because the boot's going to sit in the front of that, or the boot is going to sit over top and cover it up if it doesn't look too good. And then with Old Olive, I decided to get the scene just a little bit more bolder. So just lightly inking up the stamp and just lightly tapping it down. And now it looks nice and dark, but I just wasn't quite happy with it yet. So I pulled back out the Granny Apple Green and just to get the grass just a little bit taller past the boot and then past that blue piece. Now, do you know what it is? So yeah, I'm back to the boot now, and that's because it looked a little bit too fadey for the blue piece. So I gotta get it nice and bold. So this is So Saffron Stampin' Right marker. We're just gonna add some dark shadows in there, and then Daffodil Delight. We're just gonna use that to soften up the edges. But my Daffodil Delight is kind of running low. And so you want this piece to get the same level of boldness as that blue piece. And then for the soles of the boot, I brought in the smoky slate, but hindsight, I would go with the basic gray because it actually really lightened up. So the smoky gray would be a lot better in the long run. And then back again with the So Saffron. And now this piece, we're going to erase that with some dimensionals. So do you know what it is? All right, and then I brought my white pigment pen, just added a dot for the doorknob, and then dotted each of the hearts. And now we're going to shade in the sky. So we're going to use Balmy Blue, and then I come back in with the Pacific Point just to get it a little bit bolder. So when I finished this card, I showed it to my daughter. So when I tell you this, it's probably going to stick in your head and you won't be able to get past it. But I'm going to share it with you anyway. When I showed it to her, she thought I stamped out underwear and placed it on top of the boots. And, I kind of stopped and I looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, it does look like underwear. Somewhat. So there you go, but it's supposed to be a mushroom. I want it to look a little bit more whimsical in a way. I was going to cut away the front part of the boot just so it had more just of a stump and remove the grass parts, but I thought, I'll just keep it somewhat simple and just give you that whimsical illusion that it is a mushroom boot house. So that's what it is, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, so I'm going to mount this onto a piece of So Saffron, and I think it went perfect with this project. And now we're just going to stamp the sentiment. And then the final thing I'm going to do is just stick it onto a Pacific Point panel. So I think the color combination here is quite pleasing. Okay. And that's it for this card. So yeah, underwear, right? All right, on to the final card. We're going to use the other half. We're going to use the back side of this half circle instead of the side that has the stitching on it. And with my pencil, I'm just going to draw in the sections using the grid. And that is the Stamparatus mat. And then with Smoky Slate, I'm just going to lightly draw in the two lines. Don't use the black because it's just too dark for this piece. And now we're just going to color in the umbrella using this other stamp that has the flowers in it. Really pretty stamp though. And I'm using Pineapple Punch to color in this umbrella piece. And then we're going to shade around it using Crushed Curry. And then we're going to place it onto this little panel, and then we're going to sketch out the umbrella handle with my pencil. And then once you're happy with that, we'll just trace around it with Smoky Slate using the fine tip. Now I decided not to color it in with the wider end because I was kind of getting a little messy when I created a test one. So I decided just to kind of dot along it to fill it in, so that you can keep better control of your coloring. And then I did go back in there with Sahara Sand just to get it a little bit more brown. Okay, moving on to the flower piece that's in the basket. We're just going to ink up about a quarter of that with the Blushing Bride. And just angle it in the direction you need it to be, and voila. So you want the flowers to kind of sit inside that umbrella. You don't want it to overextend too much. And then with the solid flower stamp, I'm just inking up just a few, so that way you have better control. And then with the Granny Apple Green, we're going to do the same thing, ink up 1 or 2 flowers on that stamp. And then for the color to get it to all blend together and pop, I'm using Melon Mambo. And again, just ink up a couple, and you can see that I only inked up 2. And then here's where I just ink up the 1, so I can control where to place it all. And then I come back in with just a little bit more green in there. Yeah, I think that turned out really nice. Now, instead of using sequins, I decided to use the tiniest heart that came in a stamp set. So just going to stamp a bunch, staggering them. Okay, and then before I stick down the umbrella piece with Pacific Point, we're going to add some shading on the bottom right and then a little bit of shading on the top left. Okay, so we're going to stamp the sentiment next. Because I came down just a little bit too low, now I'm going to stamp the sentiment on the top, and I'm just going to use the bigger one. And now we're going to stick down that umbrella piece with some dimensionals. All right, so we're finished with this, and now we're just going to put the layout together. All right, so from the envelopes, there is a petal pink one, and I just cut that down. And I'm just going to place the umbrella piece on the center of the petal pink panel. So I decided that it needed a punchier color. I was going to leave it just like that, but I decided to mount it onto a real red card panel, and I think it turned out just perfect. All right, so that is the final card. Here are the stills, and then we're going to go into a quick summary and then a final still of all the cards. I hope you enjoyed today's card share. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.